by Prerana Srinivasan. An island of yardbirds, castaways of all races, morbid, demurred, the odor of malaise, to rack and ruin. Malevolent old bedeviled shack, embedded in ruin. Ronov on his throne, filicide his eternal bliss. Misery abloom and the great Earl of the Abyss. Paranoia homegrown, the men for themselves, aggregated miscreants, their acts of blasphemy parallel to none. Desecrating ingenuines and the greenhorns on the run. Eviscerating the old, their toxic fun. Somber viridescent hues, thickened verdure, now a woodland rye. The ground wet with the lifeblood of old. Pale hues of brown gracing the coppice floor and eccentricity of the arid south. Bloody wounds, malaphites, sullied rags, nuratory tombs for those to be forgotten, white flags. The sanguinary bivouacs, the putrid corpses, a river of blood, thickened warp, and cadaver crud. Cadavers, wrinkle folds, violet tinge, blood-borne mold, defunct fringe. Spattered arena of a hamlet. Heavy wounds on the back of it all. Everything steady, yet likely to fall. A wailing shanty tormented by the madness of men, bloodthirsty barbarians of Galante. The Marquis riled his sight, beguiled, lacerated wood greeted the tar path, and mangled entrails, the bludgeon bud. Teardrops of wine now glistened their crow's feet. Ronov basked in glory his rhetoric moan. Asteroid's aid, his new legions 40 and full-blown, his zealous profane workers, the order of the throne. The witching hour lurker, his infernal groan, the fallacious berserker. Cerebrus, the bringer of inclement, the hellhound of misery, reckless and tempestuous streaks of agony, the blackguard of the forsaken, men, burnt to a fine crisp, the petriture of justice, now mist. Ash now in melody with the placid twilight sky, black cinders in the wild orchard welkin, the tar road sable with the drumlin of ember, the harmonious union, a new equilibrium. The dance of death, the ballad of life, the agony of the last breath, stanchion being strife, an art to be keep. All were dead but one, the usurper, tranquil from the bloodshed, the revelry had just begun. On the run, the juncture of asteroids, nightfall had struck, the usurper was in luck. Legions prostrate, the juncture had passed, the azure now rose from beneath the shaded Signian crypt, the usurper now trapped in a forest, vast. Out of the blue he paced towards the bright clinker walls of an abandoned byre, amidst a gold field of corn. Parched, he searched for running lifeblood. Famished, he roamed the flaxen paddocks of ailment. Satisfied, luxuriated under the honeycomb eperine. Lady Midday roamed the field, her pearl-tinged robe bejeweled the field. The idyllic sound, rustling crop, her bright virgule. The usurper roused his caterwaul of misery and dread. Her scythe was scorching under the beams of the sun. With one swift motion his head catered away from his peach corpse. The ichor dripped, furrow of red, scarlet soil rather than rye. Maize watered with blood, just another gloomy, lackluster day. Could his past have redeemed him, his profanity now black from grey? An infamous doctor, who was to blame? For the death of his patients was his game. There he rests, lying still, a man of power, a man of skill. He made a sport of their ludicrous claims, a laudation for the lamented marionettes to maim. His antidote the cure, his missive to lure those crestfallen souls in sheer wanton torment. He left them with a mirthless grin, his specimens, alas, torpid. He believed he'd struck gold, blemishing the pure. They were left fragmented, agony endured. Their excruciating dreams, now mere reality, their shroud of oals, now crestfallen into folds, sentience lost, a psyche phlegmatic, the everlasting cold. His lethal pragmatic, their evanescent lives all but one. Tenebrous in his thoughts, he set out to defile another, his avant-garde unearthing, dooming the last breather. Upon manifestation, he rendered the grey pietist, decrepit, nonetheless forced him into submission. Bisecting his head, inaugurating the red, he proliferated the suffering, euphoric darkness, leaving prosaic his perspection. Then there lay none. Alas, the spirit of content resonated within him, for he was a subject to accolade by the dominion. The purgatory twiddled for him, the cacodemons would have it no other way. Yearning his arrival, together they would fray. Soon transpired his demise, the firmament lay shut, for his soul was now a mere wanderer of the worlds, a nomad of the realms. The purgatory laid claim to his extradited spirit in swift pickings. His head emerged in a river of atrophy, the body gouged from the ebbing water, tendrils of violet grabbed from the tide, pressed onto a sword-studded bench. Perplexed, he begged for mercy, his body pierced by blades. His eyes, observing the thick red fluish gush from the sides of his torso, with the defiler staring into his soul, now cackling, for it was their role. His innards pulled away from the clutches of his skin, and crushed between the weight of his sin. The red blood flowed into the atrophy, his regretful twin, but his time had now run out. How pernicious!